Welcome, everyone, to SI Media with Jimmy Traina. Thank you so much for listening. We have an excellent show. We have Christopher Mad Dog Russo from SiriusXM. We get into a dog recently going viral for the clip of Joey Votto cutting a wrestling promo on him and people misinterpreting that and what he thought about Votto. So we get into that. We talk about Dog's future at SiriusXM and First Take and High Heat. He's got some things going on, so we get into that. Talk about current events in the sports world. Jeff Van Gundy being let go from ESPN, Shohei Ohtani, the Yankees, a bunch of topics with Dog. Go a little bit most influential sports media people. So a fun conversation with Christopher Mad Dog Russo from SiriusXM. And then we have Traina Thoughts with Sal Licata following Dog, where we go through a bunch of topics as well. We talk about the passing of Paul Reubens, the Sean Payton comments about the Jets and Nathaniel Hackett, cord cutting, and a couple of other topics with Sal. Before we get to it, just a little reminder, if you've missed any recent episodes of SI Media with Jimmy Traina, go into the archives, check them out. WWE superstar Seth Rollins was on the pod this week. We posted that. Last week, sports columnist Bob Kravitz, fired from The Athletic, wrote a controversial piece, came on the pod to talk about it. Cody Rhodes, also from the WWE, was on recently, along with Mike Florio, Andrew Marchand, Adam Shine. So check those out in the archives. Give them a listen. Subscribe to SI Media with Jimmy Traina and leave a review on Apple. All right, let's get to this week's show. Chris Mad Dog Russo from SiriusXM and First Take, followed by Traina Thoughts with Sal Licata from WFAN and SNY TV, all right here, right now on SI Media with Jimmy Traina. All right, joining me now, he was just here in June, but he's back because we have something big to promote, and I will have him on anytime he wants. The legendary Radio Hall of Famer from SiriusXM, Christopher Mad Dog Russo. Doggy, how are you?
Good afternoon there, James. How you doing today? Okay, pal?
I'm good. I've been struggling to figure out where to start this interview. There's so many ways to go. I'll start with this.
Yes.
Two weeks ago, I'm sitting on the beach, Jones Beach, relaxing, enjoying the sun. Got the phone going, the AirPods in, and 3 o'clock comes and I listen to Chris Russo on SiriusXM Mad Dog Radio. And out of nowhere, I hear you say, and I got a bone to pick with Jimmy Traina because he wrote about Pat McAfee in Sports Illustrated.
Oh, that's right.
So let's get this out of the way here.
The most important media personality ever, Pat McAfee. And you're right. I'm not disputing it. But I thought maybe you'd throw a bone to Stephen A. I thought you might throw a bone to yours truly. Sort of as runner-ups, put it in a little last line. Right. I thought of these two, but it's Pat McAfee. But you did not do that. You jumped aboard the Pat McAfee food train, and Stephen A. specifically, and yours truly, number 3, got hurt. Yes, that bothered me.
All right, so let me give you the backstory here and pull back the curtain so you know how this works. SI editors put together the issue, and they did, I think, the top 50 influencers across sports. So that includes athletes, GM, Adam Silver, the whole thing. And they wanted McAfee on the list. And because I cover media and I had interviewed McAfee recently, they asked me to write the McAfee blurb. I did not come up with the list. I was just asked to write the McAfee blurb.
And listen, I get it. And that's fair. So it wasn't really your list. You had to write their list. You had to write a little couple paragraphs to substitute for their list. And you are not wrong. I just thought you might say in that little blurb that you write, with all due respect to Stephen A. and Christopher, that maybe you could throw us an SI little bone, but you did not do that. You went all into McAfee and jumped on the Patrick McAfee train and left Stephen A. and Chris Russo out. That was my point.
Got it. Somehow, I don't think Stephen A. needs more publicity.
Who is bigger, by the way? Which one of those two?
I think it depends on how you're judging things. I will say this, and this is where you and I sort of, unfortunately, don't come into play as much. McAfee's a hit with younger people. I'm talking about the 20-year-old.
The younger people. Yeah.
From that standpoint, it's McAfee. I think, he's the guys he gets on his show from an NFL standpoint. Forget Rodgers every week. He gets everybody on that show. Stephen A. I think Stephen A has a lot of pull in the NBA world. I don't think anyone in Major League Baseball, I don't think he has any influence in Major League Baseball. I'm not sure what his influence is in the NFL. So they each have, McAfee has the NFL, Stephen A has the NBA. I think McAfee's extremely hot with the younger crowd. We'll see what happens when he goes to ESPN. But I think the thing that the issue wanted to hit on too is like, who's hot right now? Right now, McAfee's as hot as anyone. Right now.
And I think that's fair. And I do think you're right. I do think the NFL player is going to run the Pat. The NBA player will run the Stephen A, but the NFL is bigger than the NBA. So
right.
I understand where you're coming from. And I think that makes perfect sense. You probably would put McAfee ahead of Stephen A, but it's close because Stephen A's got so many other things going on, whether it's his podcast, the General Hospital stuff. McAfee doesn't have those extracurricular things that Stephen A has.
Well, I would say this. The difference there is every NFL player loves McAfee. Not every NBA player loves Stephen A. A lot of them have beef with him. And the guy we're not talking about, who I think it has more influence than both of them, in my opinion, if you tell me who's the most influential person in sports media, for me, it's Barkley. People hang on every word Charles Barkley says. He has more power than anyone. When he even goes outside, when something outside the sports world happens, people want to hear from Barkley. And inside the NBA, he's got a huge voice. Now, again, it's limited mainly to NBA, but he branches out. He was supposed to have a CNN show with Gayle King. I don't know where that stands because CNN blew up their management team recently. But from what I see, from what I observe,
he's a big sports fan. I don't know if Charles tried to tell me something about the trading deadline, or tried to tell me something about the Wimbledon final, or tried to tell me something about the Ryder Cup or the AFC playoff structure. I don't know if I would pay too much attention, but I do know what you're telling me as far as personality is concerned. He is huge. I agree with you on that.
I mean, 100%. Think about this. The guy is an NBA analyst, and Liv was going to pay him God only knows how much money to do golf. I mean, that's the pull he has.
That's fair.
So
good one. You're right about that. Barkley's almost a bigger personality than he is actually a talk show host. He's he's an ex-athlete and everything else.
Yes.
But that's a good one. Barkley is good. I don't have a problem with that one. You're right about that. Go ahead.
Let me start with this because you were all over the place last week with the Joey Votto clip.
Right.
I read second most viewed tweet of the year for the MLB Network account. Now, you're not on social media, which I love. I love that you're not on there. And let me just say this, because I once went on Twitter and said you're not on there, and someone's like, well, you're an asshole because here's his account. And I'm like, he doesn't run the account. So you have a Twitter account. You're not on there scrolling through Twitter all day
Absolutely
long
not.
like us.
Right.
So did you become aware that there are so many dopes out there that took it as Votto ripping you for real?
Yeah, I did. And they missed the whole fun of the interview. I was happy that it got so much attention. I was happy that Votto, who did a great job with it, got so much attention. He's a good guy. I wasn't 100% sure what the whole deal was, especially with those first two questions when he basically gave me one-word answers.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that I handled it right because I didn't go off the deep end. I didn't go, go into a snit and not involve myself in the interview. And as soon as he started to go into his little, as you said, his rant, I got a sense of what this was up and I played along properly. So thank God for that. I was more interested in the amount of attention it got. And if people took, and they did, if people took from it, well, there is Votto killing Chris Russo. And thank God somebody's got the guts to do it. Hey, if that's how you take it, that's how you take it. He was there for 13 minutes. Obviously, you said what he said at the end. He was nice to me. So I didn't make that big a deal about it as far as the headline scenario was concerned, because I knew that I know enough that you can't always pay attention to headlines. The body of the work is different than the headlines.
Right.
So I was aware of it. I saw all the headlines. I also saw what you said. You dopes. Don't you understand that Votto did this because he loves the guy?
Right.
So, I mean, and when you see the whole scope of the interview, that's exactly what you get out of it. But
right.
I tell you what I was happy about. Sometimes MLB Network does not get as much attention with these jobs that I have. First take with Stephen A gets it. You're my fifth child and my fourth son. So you chronicle what I do here, which helps. And sometimes MLB Network gets kind of left out. So in this particular situation, this is all about the MLB Network, which is what I liked. Which is good. I know some folks at Sirius said, well, why don't you put Votto on next week? That's not the point. The uniqueness of it was the fun part of the spot. You don't want to talk to Joey Votto too much. It's the idea that you had a unique 10, 12 minutes that never will be replicated is what made the spot fun. And give MLB Network the glory for a change. That was their deal, which is
I get what you're saying there. And you cannot try to recreate that. But I think you should have Votto on maybe the last couple of weeks before the season if the Reds are making a wild card push, something like that. Because he's just a great guy, fun guy, great,
very good guy. I mean,
yeah.
I think there'd be a time, you're right, where you can sort of readdress it. But right now is not the time. Let that interview sit.
Right.
Let everybody get a feel of it. You don't want to, go right back to the well as soon as you had a home run gold medal spot. Let it sit for a little while. And, he did a tremendous job with it. And, the Cincinnati pregame show on Friday did a great job. I don't know if you probably didn't see that. They did a great job with the pregame when they played the Dodgers. They spent 10 minutes on it. They went back to Votto and asked him about it, how it went viral, what was the game plan. He gave you a good answer. So from that perspective, it got very large amounts of attention. So that made me happy most of all. And I don't care who gets the credit. Give Votto the credit. He did a superb job with it.
Yeah. So what Dog referred to at the very beginning of the interview, before everyone called it Votto cutting a WWE promo on Dog, but before that, you asked him two generic questions about, I don't know, the Red season, his season, and he's looking away from the camera, he's ignoring you, he's looking at his fingernails, he gives you one word answer. And that was all part of the shtick. So just piggybacking off of that, what has been the worst interview? I mean, you've been doing interviews for like 40 years.
Serena was bad.
Now, do you have on the Fan or Sirius?
Fan.
And you had Serena with Mike, or were you solo?
I think I was solo. Just, didn't want to do it. It was promoting something. One word answers. Didn't know who I was. Was not emotionally interested in the spot. So that was a bad spot. That's the one that I think about most of all, which is crazy. There's a lot more than that. But you're talking about a name athlete. Yeah. And, obviously I'm not going to get that many of these great athletes on. Djokovic was very good. Excellent. Medvedev was very, very good. Excellent. Those two at the U.S. Open tennis. Tom Watson's been on. Very good. Stuart Sink was on 1 year. Jack Nicklaus was excellent. The interviews, Jimmy, as you know, with the athletes, it helps if they got a feel of who you are.
Yeah, of course.
Come on, they have an idea that this is Russo. He's going to ask me this, ask me that. But if I get emotionally involved in a spot, I'll get through it in 20 minutes and do a good job for me.
Right.
And, you got to have an athlete who buys into that. Not all of them do. Serena didn't that particular day.
Well, and you also have to have someone who understands, and not all of them do. So, they have to understand when they come on, you can't just be promoting what you're promoting. Like, you're coming on to promote something, but you can't just come on and promote something.
100%.
I had that. I've said this before. I taped a podcast once with Gronk, and he was promoting. Now, I had done probably 2 or 3 interviews before that with Gronk that were great. But for this particular one, it was through Tide. He had to promote Tide. So every single question I asked him, I'd say, what does Bill Belichick do at practice? Well, he tells us to wash our clothes with Tide. Like every answer, we never ran it. See, that's the beauty of a podcast.
It was that bad.
Oh, yeah. Never. I said, I'm not running this. Every answer had to do with Tide, Yeah.
Wow. How long was the spot? 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Wow. The football player doesn't know that much about you, so sometimes they can be a little shaky. I remember, what was the running back? Chris Johnson came on once at the Super Bowl. Not a great spot. Right. Andy Dalton, Carson Wentz was awful once at the Super Bowl. That was a terrible spot. A lot of them don't want to do it. They do it because they're forced to, as you said, through a promotion. Because you're not getting Carson Wentz on just picking up the phone and calling him. I mean, Serena's not coming on unless she has to do it based on her media obligations. And if they have to do it and they don't want to do it and they don't know who we are, that is a perfect storm for a disaster. To make a long story short,
right.
And
so
no matter
Serena,
how good I am, if I can't get something, if that interviewee has got that attitude coming in, you're dead in the spot. You're dead.
Right.
Votto gets it.
Right.
He understands it. He gets to know. He knows me. And it really wasn't an interview per se. That was a chance for him to shine. It really wasn't me and him as an interview.
Right.
It was like 10 minutes anyway. You got Alana there as well. It was about him doing his rants. You know, the hair, the pocket squares, that's what that was about. And he hit a home run. He nailed it. No question about it.
Serena came to mind as your worst interview. What was your most contentious interview where the guest was really pissed off at you?
Deion Sanders was bad.
Really? Now give me a fan or Sirius?
Sirius, Super Bowl in New York.
All right, fill me in.
McCarver.
Oh, you went after him about dumping the water on Tim
I said,
McCarver.
I got to ask about McCarver. He was a little bothered by that. That was a bad spot. Now, we got through it, but it was, as you said, it was contentious.
Is he still defending his actions all these years later?
Well, I mean, he basically said, you don't know the story. McCarver was mean, blah, blah, blah. Right. The Braves knew that I was going to do that, play football in the daytime and then go play the baseball at night. I mean, and I had Sean McDonough on the day McCarver passed away, and McDonough killed Deion. Killed him.
Well, let me say one thing right there. The day McCarver passed away, I went on YouTube and watched that video. Deion was nasty. It wasn't just I got a beef with this guy. I'm going to dump a bucket of water on him. It was nasty. It was not playful at all. Yes.
No, not playful. And McCarver was a longtime broadcaster and a good athlete in his own right. But that was a tricky spot with Deion. And, Rich Eisen swears that Deion's like the greatest guy in the world.
Yeah.
He always tells me that constantly. Yeah. So that was a contentious one. Every time an athlete comes on that you got to ask him a tough question, whether he's prepared for it or not, you got to dredge up something from his past. That can always be a tricky scenario. And remember, when an athlete comes on and he's part of a collapse with a team or a moment like that with Deion, and if you don't ask the question and don't bring it up, then you get killed as an interview.
Right.
How does he not ask him about that? He gave up Game 7's home run. How does he not? So if you can ask him that, I'll tell you who was a tremendous spot. This is going way back. You guys are going to laugh at this. You would probably not even know who he is. Ralph Terry.
The old pitcher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ralph Terry gave up the home run to Mazeroski.
Right.
In Game 7 of the World Series. Yeah. And then he came back in 62 and got McCovey to line out to end the World Series. Could you imagine if Ralph Terry gave up 2 Game 7 hits in 3 years to win a World Championship?
It almost reminds me of Byung-Hyun Kim with the Diamondbacks and the Yankees that one year.
Little bit like that. And Terry was a professional golfer, played in the PJ. He did a great job with the spot. I never forget it. So that was an interesting. It all depends on whether the athlete buys it. That's the bottom.
Right. I did a bad job at the top because I should have mentioned one of the things we need to talk about, which is Dog is doing a show for SiriusXM this Friday, August 4th at Bar A Anticipation in Lake Como, New Jersey. So if you're in the tri-state area, 3 to 7. I know the press release said 3 to 8, which got you upset.
Yeah, terrible. We'll be there. That was a Steve Torrey thing. Let me fly. Steve didn't check the hour, and we got it.
I'm worried about Steve Torrey based on that one opening you had. 3 to 7, Friday, August 4th, Bar A, Lake Como, New Jersey. Anybody could come down and watch the show, right?
Correct. And there'll be a lot of people there. You got a band. That's a big bar to begin with. It's Jersey Shore summertime on a Friday. Hopefully the weather cooperates. You never know.
Right.
I've done a million shows there. I hadn't been there in a long time. Since 2007, Southside Johnny's been there with Mike and myself in the old days. I'm looking forward to it, and we'll see if, again, weather's important, fan base is important. You're going to have a mix. You're going to have fans who just go to the Jersey Shore and go to that bar on Friday nights anyway, and Friday afternoons in the summertime anyway. You're going to have some FAN people who haven't seen me in a long time, who don't have Sirius necessarily, who show up because it's in a tri-state area. You're going to have a few fans who are actually going to visit from the Sirius thing, who don't know anything about Bar A, Monica in Allentown, PA, Dave in Maryland, Hayden in Virginia. And then you're going to have a lot of Sirius and family members too. So it's going to be an interesting crew that is there. We got a band and they will play each hour a song or two. It's a cover band, the Eddie Testa Band.
Is it going to be all?
Is a significant spot. We'll enjoy that on Friday. Looking forward.
Is it going to be all Bruce songs?
Well, I don't know enough about the band. I didn't pick the band. They are a cover band, and they play all these Jersey Shore spots. So I know you're not a Springsteen fan,
right?
So I know you're not. You're going to have to hear a lot of Backstreet's Jungle Land, and She's the One. I'm sure they mix it up, but it is a Jersey Shore cover band. So use your imagination.
Dancing in the Dark, I could deal with that.
Use your imagination.
All right, so let me ask you this: there is no one on the face of the earth who knows travel better than you, who's more obsessed with travel, who enjoys the whole thing around travel. So tell me this. Right. Your old neck of the woods, Syosset, Long Island.
Right.
Let's say I'm leaving from Syosset, Long Island. I want to go to Bar A Friday. How long is the drive going to be, and when should I leave?
What time do you want to get to Bar A?
Well, your show starts at 3, so sometime by 3 would be nice. Maybe at 2:30, so I could bullshit with Eddie a little bit.
All right. Leave at 12.
Okay.
It's a Friday in the summertime going down to State Parkway.
Right.
Leave at 12. Don't be stupid and do the sort of things that, I have done and taken me 4.5 hours to get down there. So 2 years ago, I took a group of guys down here to play tennis on July 4th weekend, Maniloking, 10 miles to the south from Buchanan. It took me 4 hours to get there for crying out loud. So use your noodle, leave at 12, and you'll be there by 3 o'clock. And you can have a couple of cocktails on Eddie.
All right. So 3 hours in the car is what I'm going to have there. All right.
If you go. Yes. Indeed.
Okay. Now, like I said, I was trying to relax on the beach. I heard you bring up my name. You're upset. Now, another day I'm listening to the show, and I hear you say that you'll be with SiriusXM through the Super Bowl, quote, and then we'll see, end quote.
Did I say that? When did I say that? Recently?
In the last 2 weeks.
One of our long days.
Oh, I must have been goals then, and I came up with something. Listen, who knows? I am definitely gonna be all over the Super Bowl and all over the fall. Do I know? I got 4 kids in college beginning this year. I have nobody in the house beginning August 28th. That's the first time in 25 years that is going to occur for the Jeannie Russos and the Chris Russos. I got a kid who's going to be that third assistant in Northern Arizona. You don't think I'm going to be wrapped up in Flagstaff, Arizona there for a good part of the season? I have a daughter in San Diego. You think I'm not going to be interested in going out there to see her? I got Colin, who's at Wisconsin. I could see him doing radio in a year or so. His senior year in Madison, you got that. And then you got a kid in Chicago going to college. So from that standpoint, freedom is important. So once the Super Bowl is over, Jimmy, and I'm stuck in a freezing weather, why not go to Flagstaff for 2 months, the last month and a half, watch Timmy coach, see if he can organize sideline out of bounds and baseline out of bounds plays for the Lumberjacks. And in the meantime, bounce around and go to San Diego and see my daughter. There is something called Russo Air. So you can go Flagstaff to San Diego in decent order. And I want to be able to keep those options open. So and obviously ESPN after the Super Bowl, MLB Network, and that leaves you Sirius. So you never say never. That's
so it sounds like to me what you need to do in the next contract negotiations coming up in 2024 is work out a new schedule. You're not really going to go off into the sunset and leave us. You need to get a schedule that's conducive to you traveling and taking days off and maybe doing the show from Flagstaff, Arizona a couple times a week.
I don't know about a couple times a week, but I'm going to want to see the games. I am 64 years old in 2 months. I can't be doing this forever, correct? So from that perspective, I know where I will definitely be everywhere here through, say, February 14th. Give me a little leeway where I can at least reassess my life after I have everybody away for a term. You got to remember, that's going to be a traumatic experience for the missus. This is the first time since 1998 that she's going to have nobody in the house except me on the third floor breaking down Chargers and Chiefs on a Friday morning after the Thursday night game. She's going to say, I can't take this anymore. Get me the hell out of here.
No, when she's got,
she's happy.
What she's going to say is, the kids are gone. I got you in the house. Go back to Sirius 5 days a week.
That's what she might say, which I don't want to do. But
Right.
that she very well can say. Go start commuting again.
I'm going to make a statement right now. I want you to react to this statement. Chris Russo will never leave the radio.
I think that's in some capacity. I think you're right. Yes. Okay. I mean, I love the radio. I love the radio. So in some capacity, yeah, I think that in some form, and I love Sirius. That I'm not going to terrestrial. I'm not going back to a 66 or anything. It's going to be here. Yeah, there'd be maybe some podcasts. That seems to be a new thing, right? How about Eddie Erickson keeps on telling me you're nuts. Go do a podcast, get ESPN behind you, and do 2 interviews a week for an hour a pod. And you get that machinery behind you.
Totally disagree. There's nothing like live for you. You need to be live. You need to react to what happens. I don't want you on a delay. I don't want you after. I want you live, 3:00.
So the podcast, since it's taped and it's pre-recorded, you lose that spontaneity. Okay.
A little bit, yeah. Especially if there's news break. If there's a news break in the middle of the day, I want to hear you live. I will say this: as a big Howard Stern listener, I know most people cannot get a direct line to Howard. So have you called Gary and said, Gary, listen, I need the Howard schedule. I need the 3 days a week. I need July and August off. Tell me how Howard did it with Sirius because I need to do it. That's basically what you need to do.
I think your point is well taken. Why not take the summers off?
Well, you love baseball, so that might be hard for you. But yeah.
Who knows? I'm at a little bit of a transitional stage right now, a little bit of a crossroads. Because of empty household.
Right.
I can't keep Jeannie around here all summer or all winter because I want to play tennis at the New Canaan Field Club, or I want to play golf at Shorehaven, or I want to go out there and make sure I see the playoff games the weekends in January, and then one game on Peacock, which bothers me, that I got to do that football there in January. Chris, I got to stay in the cold weather because you want to go on the air on Monday morning? Really? We got to do this? So there's going to be a situation where I'm going to have to bend a little bit. We shall see what that comes to there at the end of the year. Anyway, how are you doing? Most important.
All right. So all right. You want to get off your future. That's fine. I'll throw a bunch of topics at you here in this current sports landscape. We'll get your opinion. We'll go around the horn here on a bunch of stuff. Let me ask you this. You were the first one sort of to get the ball rolling on this. You were the first one to say it. The firing of Jeff Van Gundy from ESPN is completely bizarre to me and makes no sense. He was the best analyst in the sport. You brought up the fact that maybe the NBA was behind this. Now, did Adam Silver call ESPN and say, get rid of Jeff Van Gundy? Probably not. But do I think the NBA probably complained to ESPN about Jeff Van Gundy? Probably. But I don't understand how you fire the best analyst in the sport. I don't care what you're trying to do with your financials and payroll budget and all that. He was the best NBA analyst. How do you fire him? It's insane.
Yeah, and then they redid the whole crew. And then they brought up the idea, well, maybe ESPN was getting tired of Van Gundy thinking about getting back into coaching, yet they brought Doc Rivers in.
Right, who's going to leave?
Who listen, all power to Doc. He got fired with the Clippers, and 5 minutes later he was coaching the freaking Sixers.
Right.
And then he got fired from the Sixers, and he was interviewing for the Suns job. So the idea that somehow, some way, Doc now is committed to be a broadcaster, no, he's not. If Doc gets offered next year a job coaching, think of the Boston Celtics, he might go back and coach the Boston Celtics. Right. So, I was really surprised by that. That made absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. And networks spend fortunes trying to create good chemistry, trying to create a good booth, trying to create a booth that's got a little staying power, that's got a little pizzazz, a little panache. And they had that booth with those three. Jackson and Van Gundy worked well off one another. Breen was the traffic cop. Jeff was funny without trying to be funny, which makes him very, very good. He was shocked by it. That really, really floored me. And you are not going to convince me. Now, I don't have any evidence. I don't pretend to have any evidence. But you are not going to convince me that ESPN woke up one day and said, we got to get Jeff Van, or we don't like Van Gundy anymore. We got to fire him. Without having somebody in the league office at least express to them displeasure on Van Gundy getting on the officials, or Van Gundy getting on, NBA formatic things, as he can sometimes be a little biting about the NFL, NBA schedule.
Right.
Playoff teams being in the postseason, the mini play-in tournaments. And so I'm sure at times he rubbed them the wrong way. They got a contract up and everything else. I was shocked, and I still am. He is a great analyst. You don't fire, and everybody knows it. It's not just me. You know it. Everybody knows it. You're telling me right now that ESPN that just brought Buck and Aikman in for $30-something million, that all of a sudden they woke up one day and they wanted to get rid of Jeff Van Gundy's $2 million or $3 million contract? I ain't buying it. I'm not buying it.
Me either. You hit the nail right on the head. And I'll say this. Obviously, Breen has worked with Doris. He knows Doc Rivers back from the Knick days. I'm sure he loves both of them. But this move also is going to piss. I'm sure Breen is not happy at all that he's been with these two guys for 20 years and now they blow them out for no reason.
Well, I know his best friend is Doc Rivers.
Okay.
So I think from that point, they play golf together and there's a good relationship with the two of them. Doc had a great relationship with Al back in the day when they did the games. Right. So I think Breeny's probably okay with it. And, he's a great play-by-play guy. So I think, I don't know how he feels necessarily about Jackson and Van Gundy. But here's the point. They brought two people in there now that are replacing a very good Booth. And everybody realizes that the Van Gundy's way he goes about doing a game with the criticism and everything else, that is what fans want to hear.
Right.
And if they play the party line and don't knock the NBA, knock players for load management, all these things that Van Gundy did over the years, if they don't they don't do that in this situation, they're going to look like house organs for the NBA.
Right.
And I do think there is something to that. And I know everybody loves Adam Silver. Everybody swears he's a great guy. I mean, I've heard nothing but great things about him, too. Remember, he's from Rye High School. And my family is a Rye High School family. So they all knew him in Rye High School. They swear by him. But I think he's at times very soft. And you're not going to convince me that somebody at ESPN didn't know that Van Gundy wasn't one of Silver's best friends. Right. And that maybe the NBA would look favorably upon that change. That's my take on it.
I agree. I also have one other theory, too. I think ESPN also, ultimately what they want to do is I think they want to put your good friend JJ Redick in that spot.
Yep.
And I think they figure we'll have Doc as a stopgap till he goes back to coaching. Doc Rivers is going to be coaching an NBA team in 2 or 3 years. You know what's going to happen.
100%.
So let JJ Redick do games for 2 or 3 more years, get that experience because he didn't have a ton of experience doing the games, and then JJ Redick will replace Doc. I think that's what's going to end up happening.
With Jefferson.
Well, they're not going to get rid of Doris. I think.
Oh, so you're okay. So in other words, there's only one spot available there.
That's what I think, yeah.
I do think, now remember, JJ wants a coach too,
Right, exactly.
He interviewed for the Toronto job.
Right.
I think JJ wants to be a coach.
Yeah.
I think he enjoys the broadcasting. This is just a guess. But he did interview for the Toronto job.
Yeah.
So I think he wants to be a coach. So if I don't know, and they can't pay him the same amount that the coach gets paid.
Right.
Keep that in mind too.
All right, another topic, and this one is just for me and my own ego. No one knows baseball better than you. I've asked this question before. I want to know, why does Brian Cashman have a job for life? That's what I want to know.
I agree with you on that. I agree.
What? Listen, I always got to have this conversation and state something right off the bat. You need to establish, what is the goal for the Yankees? Is the goal for the Yankees give the fans a nice season, get in the playoffs every year, and make a ton of money, because that's what they do now? Or is the goal to win the World Series? Because if the goal is to win the World Series, he has no business having that job anymore. Because right now things are terrible for the Yankees. Let's say they pull it together and get to the playoffs. They're going to lose in the first round anyway. So what's the point? But that seems to be that's fine now with the Steinbrenner's. Just get to the playoffs. Let us make all our money hand over fist, charge you $50 for water and a hot dog, and we're happy. We don't care about winning the World Series. Now, that's my take on it. And to me, the culprit right now for the Yankees not winning a World Series since 2009 is Cashman. And the New York media is in the tank for him, which helps, because if you and Mike were still in the air, he'd be getting destroyed 24/7 and there'd be some pressure on them. But he gets a free pass. And I don't understand what the Yankee affair is with Cashman, that he's never allowed to go. He stays forever.
Well, I would say this. I think Cashman's a good GM, but he's been there too long.
Right.
25 years.
Right.
The man has been the general manager of the Yankees for 25 years.
It's enough.
And they have not been to a World Series in the last 14.
Right.
In 2009.
And remember the old Pat Riley line that you know as well as anyone, change the voice. Was that Pat Riley or Parcells? Got to change the voice.
Every 10 years you got to change
the voice.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And there is something to be said for that. And Cashman, from a record perspective, you can't argue. As you said, they make the playoffs, generally speaking, every year. But the Yankee report card is not making the playoffs and getting swept by the Astros. The Yankee report card is winning some occasional World Series and winning an occasional pennant. The Yankees have not won a pennant since 2009.
They had a sweat and claw to beat the Guardians last year.
100% they won, and then they got swept by the Astros.
Right.
I mean, they have had and they want to blame the Astros cheating. Every time they play the Astros, they lose. They lost last year to the Astros in 4 games. They lost in 2019 to the Astros in 6 games, where their bullpen didn't do a good job. They lost 2015 to the Astros, and you can bring up 2017 all you want, how the Yankees may have been burned because the Astros are cheating. The Yankees hit 150 in Houston in those 4 games, and like 170 with runners in scoring position. So although maybe the Astros are doing something we didn't like, the Yankees did nothing from an offensive perspective. I am with you 100%. And listen, I like Cashman. And I think he'd get a job in a minute. I think my issue with Cashman is more so the length of time that he's been the Yankee general manager. Jeez, try somebody else once in a while. That would be I
agree, but I've also had it with the Joey Gallo, Jacoby Ellsbury, Frankie Montes,
Donaldson.
Who's the other? Donaldson. Listen.
Hicks.
And everyone said Hicks, that's the one. And bringing in Isaiah and everyone wants to say, he gets to the playoffs every year. And I don't want to sit here and say he's never done anything good. That's not fair. He has a good record. There's no doubt about it. But he also has a $300 million payroll. I know there's some people who go, well, if the Yankees fired him, he'd get a job in 5 minutes. You know what? Good. I want that to happen. Let me go see how he does with the Royals with an $80 million payroll. Then let me see what a good GM he is.
That's an excellent point. There's some truth to that. I would like to see that too. But Hal feels very comfortable with him. But the Yankees season this year is a disgrace.
Well, how about this?
I understand Judge missed 40 games.
Right.
They got Stanton. They got a young shortstop. They got Torres. They got Rizzo. They got LeMahieu. They got the best pitcher in the American League in Cole. They gave $162 million to Rendon. He's been a bust. Hasn't pitched. And when he has pitched, he hasn't been so good. I mean, geez.
The amount of guys they bring in,
500.
The amount of guys they bring in who are hurt or get hurt is astonishing.
Right. And a Yankee developmental staff, they haven't developed any players.
Give me one pitcher Brian Cashman developed. Give me one.
And every time you ask them, they tell, well, we don't have the high draft picks. All these other teams like the Orioles, Tampa, they drafted like the top 4 or 5 picks in the draft year after year after year. But the Yankees never developed any. Torres was a trade. We all knew that with Chapman. So he came from the Cub organization. Stanton, they dropped in their lap. Judge was good. They got Judge. We give them that 7 or 8 years ago. But no pitchers. They had to spend $500 million to get 2 pitchers here in Cole and in Rondon. I generally agree with you. And my issue isn't that he hasn't done a good job. My issue there, he's had the same job for too long.
Oh, my issue is he's
25 years. Right. Give somebody else a chance.
My issue is he's had the job for too long, and the last 4, 5, 6 years, he has not done a good job. That's my issue. Getting to the playoffs and getting embarrassed in the playoffs every year in the first and second round is not doing a good job to you when you have a $300 million payroll. Sorry.
There's some truth to that. I agree with that.
And I saw this stat yesterday. This season, the Yankees are, now I don't remember, it was either 8-1 or 9-1. 8-1 or 9-1 against the A's and Royals. You take that out, they're 47-50.
They are 8-1, that is correct.
Right. So they're 8-1 against the Royals and A's, 47-50. You take that out.
That's a very good point. Now, everybody's beating those 2 teams, so some of these records are going to be inflated because those are 2 horrendous teams. But your overall point is, hold on now. Good or not good, he's been there since 96, 97 after Watson left. They haven't won a pennant in 2009. Hal just gave him a huge contract extension, and they're having a terrible year. How about we try somebody else once in a while? That is the basic point.
And I hate the whole organizational philosophy on how they do things. Everything obviously is with the analytics and the computers. But Judge comes back from the DL. He DHs Friday, plays 7 innings in the outfield on Saturday, hits a home run, and they bench him on Sunday. The guy doesn't need a rest after 2 games where he DH'd in one of them. The way
it's ridiculous. Lost that game Sunday anyway.
Right. That's not. I said it before. I said it before the game started.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you would think that they would push Judge. Now, Judge can't run right now. You see him running a couple of days ago. Right. He can't run. His toe's bad. The Yankees are a complete mess. I mean, this is the New York Yankees should not be a last place team. That's all there is to it. And look at all the teams. Now, they're going to chalk it up to the idea that they had these great draft picks forever. But Milwaukee and Cincinnati and Tampa and the Orioles, all these teams that have much better record, Miami, and we go on, that have much better record. The Braves have, they pay $160 million on payroll. Look at the Braves. And they say, well, the Yankees, they all bring up the fact that they had, great picks and, they picked top 5 in the draft and they were bound to hit on some, blah, blah, blah. Well, how about Atlanta? All right, Atlanta got Acuna and Albies signed. They drafted him. They made a trade to get Olsen. They let Freeman go. Riley, they gave a great contract to. Here's Max Fried. They made a trade to get Charlie Morton. I mean, they did a great job. And what is it? Anthopoulos, year after year after year. Last year, they won the division. The year before, they won the World Series. This year, they got the best record in baseball. This guy's a tremendous general manager. And they don't pay a luxury tax bill. Right.
There it is. That's it. It's time for him to go. All right, let me... on baseball, you're a historian. Where are you with Ohtani right now in terms of? I understand you're probably going to tell me he's got to do it a few more years, but let's say he has 3 more years like the one he's having this year. Where are you putting him here?
Well, he's not the best player of all time. I mean, is he? Are you going to say that? See, here's the problem that if I'm going to give you, you're going to make me play negative with Ohtani, so I'll play negative.
No, I'm not making you. I want your honest opinion. I'm not asking you to play negative.
Let's compare him. First off, being compared to Ruth is an incredible compliment to begin with.
Right.
He'd never be the hitter Ruth is, and he'd never be the pitcher Ruth was. What Ohtani is unbelievable at, he's doing it both at the same time. Ruth only did it a year or 2 at the same time. Now, to be fair to Ruth, there was no DH. So when he didn't pitch, he had to go play the outfield and be on his feet for 9 innings every day. He couldn't just get up there 4 times a day, hit a home run, and go sit down. And that's what Ohtani has the advantage of because he's not playing the outfield. So if you wanted to be really nitpicky, you can bring that up. And Ruth hit 714 home runs, for crying out loud. And Ruth out-homered leagues. But, I mean, having said all that, the fact that he's pitching at this number, the complete game shutout last week against Detroit, the fact that he's got 38 home runs, and the fact that, he runs the bases great, he plays basically every day, his teammates love him, he stays out of trouble. I mean, I can't knock him. He's been phenomenal. And I also think, Jimmy, that there's a good chance that I got a funny feeling he might stay with the Angels. They've done a very good job here in the last couple of weeks of bringing in players. And even if it doesn't result in them this year making the postseason, which I don't think it will, the idea that they have really tried, I think leaves a lasting impression. He lives right on the beach. It's no pressure in Orange County. It's not Los Angeles and Dodger Stadium. It's Anaheim, that dump of a ballpark near Disney World. It's nice, easy going. The Angels are a nondescript team. I think he likes that. And I think there's a good chance that he could stay. And I think the fact that the Angels have gone out of their way to put together a team, made all these moves, despite the fact they're not in the playoffs yet, Colorado move, the White Sox move with the pitchers, I think that bodes well for him. And I got something else, too. Everybody thinks Dodgers, if not Angels. If Ohtani decided to leave the Angels, I think he's a good guy. I don't think he's going to give the franchise a double whammy. I don't think he's going to leave the Angels and turn around and sign with their arch enemy 20 miles to the north and with the Dodgers in the same market. If he left, he'd go maybe to San Francisco. Maybe he goes to San Diego. Maybe he even goes to Seattle. I know it's the same division, but, I don't look at the Mariners and the Angels like I look at the Dodgers and the Angels.
Right.
I actually think he's not going to the Angels. So I think it's going to be stay with the Angels or go to specifically San Francisco or Seattle. And right now, I would not be shocked if at the end of the day he signs a long-term deal with Anaheim. I really would.
All right. A couple of more. The it seems like there's no NFL team in the 2023 season except the Jets. It's all about the Jets. You could not possibly care less about Hard Knocks, right?
No, I could care less.
That's what I figured. But what about
people?
the Jets?
People are going to get into it. My kids are home, and one of them will get into it. So I probably will be drawn into it because of that. But I don't know what day it starts. The Jets have editorial control.
They do.
As far as the actual getting anything meaty in there, it's all going to be about Rodgers. Salah's got a personality, so that will help. But if you're asking me, is it appointment television? It is not appointment television to me as a fan. It's not.
And you didn't like Quarterback on Netflix.
Oh, I can't stand it. What a terrible show that is. Oh, it adds. Do I want to see the Mahomes family close the park in Kansas City so his little daughter can run around a carousel? Really? This is what I got to see? Or Kirk Cousins in a man cave talking about how his wife's got to fly into BWI and she waves to him when they were playing Washington last year from the stands? Really? Well, how Marcus Mariota, was at Oregon and he always used to play pretty well at the University of Washington. And it's great, his marriage, because his wife was an athlete as a duck, as a soccer player. And so she can relate to him with his trials and tribulations as a quarterback. Are you serious? Now, I gave 2 episodes, the full rundown. I liked the full swing on Netflix, the golfers. I did not like the tennis.
Okay.
Did not.
But what you didn't
get like this.
You didn't like getting that insight into how hurt Kirk Cousins was every single week and how banged up he was.
I only saw the first 2.
Okay.
They only played 4 or 5 games, and to get me back to it right now, I'm going to have to be bored stiff and nothing going on. I guess everybody tells me later on when Cousins loses to the Giants, we can get into that. But here's something that's interesting.
Wait, let me give you one other thing that I think you would enjoy too. Remember when Mahomes hurt his ankle in the playoff game against Jacksonville?
Game. Yeah.
That they get all that stuff in there, fighting with Andy Reid on the sidelines about how he's.
Andy Reid said, "I'm going to take you out," and Mahomes said, "Don't you dare!" Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Remember when they went through Cousins' Washington career, they did not bring up that stinko that he gave us against the Giants with McAdoo as the head coach, and they had a chance to make the playoffs with a win, controlling their own destiny. The Giants were already in the playoffs, and they lost 10-3. And Cousins, in a big spot, couldn't get the team home to win a game against a team that was playing for nothing. That was the year the Giants lost to Green Bay. Playing for nothing, and I didn't see that when they talked about his fond days as a commander. So I had a lot of trouble with it. Do I have to go back now and watch a little of it based on what you just said because I missed some good stuff? Maybe. But you can't sit there and tell me that those 2 episodes are any good. The first 2.
All right, 2 more before we wrap up with Dog, who's doing his SiriusXM radio show this Friday, August 4th from 3 to 7 at Bar Anticipation, a.k.a. Bar A in Lake Como, New Jersey. Anybody could go down. Were you up at 3 a.m. watching the Women's World Cup?
No, I was not. But somebody was texting me today. They were doing selfies because they got into the next round after they got a 0-0 game against Portugal, and they were running around like they had accomplished something.
How about? I believe that I don't pay attention to it on it. I've seen all these tweets about someone was killing the team for celebrating. So I guess that is, I guess it is true.
If you're a 2-time defending World Cup champ, you don't take bows for finishing second place in the group stage.
Well, how about the guy or girl who woke up at 3 a.m. to watch the game and they get a 0-0 game?
And they had pretty good ratings the first 2 days.
Yeah, 6 million.
Let me see what the rating was last night at 3 o'clock in the morning. The first 2 games started at 9 o'clock at night on Fox. Let me see how many people stayed up on the East Coast at 3 a.m. from last night.
If Djokovic was playing in some sort of final, I guess the Australian Open's like this.
I get up and watch it.
Okay. All right. Last thing. You've been removed from FAN for many years, but they just had wholesale changes over there. Do you still pay attention? Do you still care? Or you're not in that world? You don't care?
I'm not in that world. I'm aware of the changes. So how can I not be? But I haven't listened in forever. I'm on when they're on. I don't put on the morning show that much. I just don't pay too much attention to it. I am aware that they brought Tiki into the afternoon. Tiki's going to do some CBS games. I don't know how he's going to win on
with
Friday.
Andrew Catalan and Matt Ryan.
Exactly. Is he going to be on Fridays or is he going to do it from remote? How's he going to do those shows?
I don't know.
Friday in the football. You got team meetings on Friday. You got to go visit the teams when you're on the road doing games. I mean, I'm wondering how they're going to handle that.
I think they do the meetings on Saturdays.
Well, they do they do the visiting team on Saturday when they fly in.
Okay.
The home team they do Friday.
Okay. And they've been doing it on Zoom anyway the last few years because of COVID. The NFL still didn't. I'm sure this year it'll be back to normal.
Yeah, I was curious about that. I have not followed it that carefully. I know what's going on. Carton did have to leave. I mean, those hours were absolutely ridiculous. You can't, start your day at 4 a.m. and end it at 7 o'clock at night. Right. I mean, that's, that you had to do something. So I'm not surprised that is what he did. Although I'll tell you, I got to be fair. Everybody kills me for going to Sirius. Who's getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to watch FS1? May I ask?
I don't. So I can't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know anyone who does, but listen, there's got to be some reason they're doing that FS1.
I kill baseball when they put Game 7s on the NL ALCSs on FS1 up against college football. They're not on a big Fox. And I say, geez, you got a Game 7 on FS1. So if I say that about baseball in October, couldn't I say that about 7 o'clock in the morning with the sports show?
Well, yeah, I think, it's more people are going to watch ESPN, NFL Network, MLB Network. I mean, it's,
plus it's 7 o'clock in the morning.
Well, people watch
on the West Coast.
People watch sports shows in the morning. Sports fans will watch a sports. A lot of people don't want to be bothered with the Today Show, CNN, Fox. The people are burnt out on all that.
Most men are getting ready to go to work in the morning, and that's going to be a show that's predominantly oriented to men, is it not? I would assume. I've never watched it. I can't tell you. Well, you said it perfectly. I've never watched it.
Well, I listen to Howard in the morning. I watch Good Morning Football. I listen to Boomer and Gio. I mix it up in the morning. Those are like in the 3 in the rotation.
Have you had Craig on, by the way, this show?
No. I never really listened to his show, so I don't really,
Maybe an interesting spot for you. Have you had Boomer on?
Yes, I've had Boomer on. I had Boomer on before the Super Bowl when the Bengals were in it 2 years ago.
That's a good spot.
Yeah.
That's a very good spot. Yeah. And you've had Buck on. Have you had Aikman on? Many times, yes. Yeah. Right. The only NFL guy I haven't because I've had Buck, I've had Romo, I've had Nance, Romo, Buck Aikman, Tirico, Al. The only one Herb Street. The only one I have not had is Collinsworth. Out of all the main NFL guys, you have not had Collins. How come? I don't know. I don't think I've ever tried, to be honest with you, and not for any reason. He's great on the air. It's just one of those things that's fallen through the cracks. There's no specific and I would have him on right now if he wanted to. It's just one of those things I never. Well, before the season, you should get him on. Well, during the season, I would try to get him on. Oh, before, okay. I mean, the problem during the season is it's tricky to track him. You got to get him on before the year begins. Because once the games start, they're busy, they're working. No, see, I get them on during the season. I get all the guys on during the season. Well, that's even better. See, I can't get them on. I can't believe that. I find that hard to believe. It's not that easy. It's not. I never get Aikman on. He doesn't do a lot of interviews. Super Bowl, I can get him on. Right. But during the week, course of the year, I get Joe on. Buck texted me after the Joey Votto thing, by the way. Oh, he did? Okay. Well, he's a great guy. He said, "You never looked handsomer," is what he said. That's funny. He was responding to Votto. So, I did hear from Joe, and I love Buck. You know that. The guy was on in a long time, too. Go ahead. The guy I've never had on that I've always wanted to have on, I have tried for 4 years. I cannot get him on under any circumstances, is Barkley. Now, you're going to say, well, Barkley's so big, blah, blah, blah. He does a million interviews, Charles Barkley. A million interviews. Every time I get him on, he calls me Mike. he gets it confused, Mike and Amanda. But I'm surprised you reached out to his a million times. Him personally or TNT? Well, not him personally. I can't get to him personally. I'm not that, You can get to him personally. You get to him personally, Eddie? Eddie gets to him. How do you, Eddie will give you a cell. You have a cell, Ed? Okay. Yeah, give it out right now over the air. No, we're only going to do that. I'm surprised by that. Yes. I've had Ernie Johnson. I've had Kenny Smith. I've had Van Gundy, Breen, Doris. I cannot get Charles. You'll get him on. I would think that's doable. I would think you'd be able to pull that one off. I would hope. I mean, they did a documentary
TNT did a documentary on like the 20th or 25th anniversary of that show, and asked me to be on it. I was on it as one of the talking heads, talking about how great the show is. You think the guy would come on? Can't get him on.
Well, you could do that. That's gettable, because he is the nicest guy in the world. He's got no ego, doesn't take himself too seriously. You could definitely I would reach out to him directly, right? Because TNT may not want to bother him. You can, and
I'll tell you the guy I'm going to move heaven and earth to get on in a year from now, and I'm going to do everything I can. He's going to be the number one target. Tom Brady. Tom Brady.
Good point.
He's taken that job. Like these people who think he's not going to do it, he's going to do it.
A lot of people think he might pass. You think he's going to?
No, I talked to people at Fox. They said he's doing it.
Yeah, that's going to be a home run with him.
That's the one I want to get.
That's going to be a home run. Brady would be a perfect spot. That is, you get all these media guys on. Yeah, Brady would be great. I haven't had Brady.
I haven't had Tom thank me for going into the Hall of Fame.
That Jim Gray did that. Thank you.
Well, but still, listen. Whether Jim Gray did it or not, Brady sold that like he was best friends with.
Yes,
him.
He's
like, oh, Chris, great career. Oh my God, he sold it like he was like in the Mike the Mad Dog fan club.
Congratulations, well deserved. You worked this off. Yeah. Don't tell me that didn't mean that meant a lot to me. 100%.
I thought he was the sixth son after I heard that.
You're the son. I gotta go get ready for first.
Go ahead. All right, thanks, doggy. Take care. Bar A, for all the SiriusXM listeners, Bar Anticipation, Lake Como, New Jersey, Friday, August 4th. Go watch Doggy in person. God only knows what's going to happen. Take care, dog.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, joining me now, as he does every week, for our weekly Traina Thoughts segment from WFAN Radio in New York, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Sal Licata and Brandon Tierney Show, and from SNY TV, my buddy Sal Licata. Sal, how are you?
Great. How are you?
I am phenomenal for two reasons.
Okay.
Number one, it's August 1st. So that means one horrible month in the books, one horrible month to go, and life begins when the NFL returns. Just one more month. One in the books, one to go.
Right. The weather's been much better. Usually August is 90 plus degrees, but it's been nice. Today's like a fall day out.
Yeah.
It feels like football. What's the other reason?
Okay. Huge announcement. You know how I have complained and bitched and moaned a few times on the pod that for years the rating of this podcast on Apple has been at 4.5?
Yeah.
We're up to a 4.6.
All right. Congratulations. I
was going to tell Shelby to play Celebration from Kool and the Gang, but I thought that might be a little too much. But we have my begging and pleading of people to leave reviews has paid off. We're up to a 4.6. I don't even want to know what it's going to take to get to a 4.7, but if you're listening, leave a review. I appreciate it. Don't leave it if it's not 5 stars. Don't need your little 1-star review. Just, keep the 5 stars coming. So
love the show. Everything's great. 1 star.
Yeah, no. So luckily those are few and far between. All right, let's get into some topics for the week here. I'll start with this because I texted you yesterday that Paul Reubens, a.k.a. Pee Wee Herman, had passed away. Was he like one of your guys?
100%. I grew up watching Pee Wee's Playhouse, all of it. I loved it. I was just talking about this yesterday after you broke it to me. And by the way, I want you to admit something here.
Yes.
You fucking love breaking deaths to me. You love it. You're like...
Because here's what I do.
Yeah.
When someone dies, I text Sal. And the only thing I say is, like, person X dead. That's it. It started many years ago with Whitney Houston. I texted Sal, and the only thing I texted was Whitney Houston dead. That was it. Which I know sounds very insensitive the way I'm saying this on the podcast, but it's, I'm in shock. So that's really all I could muster at the time. So,
and you're breaking the news to me, and you've done this. I forget with who else, but that's exactly what I got yesterday while I was on the air.
Right.
Anyway, so I grew up on Pee Wee's Playhouse. I loved it. I didn't really get into the movies too much, but I loved him. Yeah.
See, I never watched the show. I mean, I never watched that show. I'm a couple of years older than you. Maybe that's why. I don't know. But I think, obviously, I have this knowledge of him based on talk shows and sort of the pop culture world. So it's hard not to be familiar with him. I just didn't watch the show. But that was one of those when you hear it, you're like, really? Like, he doesn't seem old. He didn't, like, and you found out he was 70, which I was surprised he was even that old.
Right.
But that was just, not one you would expect like that.
I guess he had this battle with cancer that was not public. Yeah. So I didn't, I trust you. I trust you now. You're not going to send me it when it's not.
But especially if you're on the air, I would never do that.
Well, right. But that's why I had to triple check because of being on the air. But yeah, I was shocked because we just didn't hear anything prior to that. Weird.
Let me ask you this on a tangent. When you're on the air, especially now doing 10 to 2, which is a little different than when you are you paying attention to Twitter? Obviously, I could see a commercial break. You check your phone. I don't even know if you do that. But during the show, when you're live on the air, is it good to not check Twitter? Is it good to check? Like, what do you? If something happens, you got to have a producer telling you in your ear, I guess. But
yeah, I can't. I generally don't check it during the show. If I do, it's out of habit and it's not good. Because you're not paying attention to the show. Right. So I've done that before where on the overnight, I'll just be on the phone, whether it's the callers now during the day, like if you do it with your co-host, it's just you zone out for a minute. So my general practice is only during breaks, but I don't rely on it. It's more out of habit, checking what's just refreshing the news feed, especially on a day like today with the trade deadline coming up at 6 p.m. as we record this on Tuesday here. Right. But generally, that's for the producer to give us that news.
Right. That's sort of what made me ask, too. I'm thinking, what if you're on the air and the Yankees trade, whatever, trade everybody, hopefully, but that's not going to happen. God, what a mess. The Sean Payton thing from this week I thought was fascinating, where he ripped the Jets, ripped Nathaniel Hackett, and then apologized and was like, oh, I had my old Fox hat on. And that excuse seemed bizarre to me.
I do think it's an excuse. Maybe he just was surprised by the blowback. It felt like reading the column from Jarrett Bell, like it was a conversation that you or I would have.
Right.
And maybe he's having this with a writer that he trusts for a while and then doesn't realize, oh, shit, that was on the record and that gets out and how bad it looks. I don't respect the backing down from the comments, though. You said it, just stand by it.
Well, I had two issues.
He was right.
Of course. Well, yeah. I had two issues, though. One, it's totally unfair of him to knock the Jets for doing Hard Knocks when everyone knows the Jets didn't want to do Hard Knocks. That made no sense whatsoever. And then to rip a team that you're going to play early in the season, that is just so hard to believe.
Right.
It was. I thought it was bizarre. The Hard Knocks comment was bizarre because the Jets didn't want to do it, and he's got to play them. Why would you give them that material?
Yeah, I don't think he thought all of that through. He's worried about his mess of a situation. I thought it was more about last year. I mean, I know he knocked the Jets, saying that it usually doesn't work when you put things together that way. I don't know. It was. I loved it personally because it's great for sports talk. It's great for that matchup that involved the Jets. So I love that aspect of it. I don't think he was wrong on some of the stuff that he said, but the apology to me made it weak.
I thought, I thought it was a bizarre explanation. And I do think what I also don't like about it too then is now we go the other way. So Rodgers responded, and I respect Aaron Rodgers for defending his friend. I think that was a nice thing to do. But I also don't want to rewrite history. Nathaniel Hackett put forth one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, you can't argue that.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it is. Did you see the Hard Knocks trailer? Came out. You were on the air, so you probably didn't see it. It came out.
I did not. I've not seen it yet. No.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing great. It's the expectations are high, and it was 30 seconds, and they didn't give you anything in the trailer. But it comes out next week. It's crazy. The Jets are on TV in 2 nights.
It's hard to believe.
Jets Browns Hall of Fame game in 2 nights, and then Hard Knocks is on Tuesday.
What's your play? We ready to take a side on that one?
Under. Just got to hope Zach Wilson doesn't throw too many pick sixes.
I was going to say Zach Wilson's playing. We already know he's in there.
We've discussed this before, but things change, so I want to get an update from you on this. Could you ever see yourself cutting the cord?
No, never.
So I saw this from the great John Oran this morning, and it's just shocking. Like, there were 78.889 million homes with cable in January. 78.8. Okay. Now it's down to 75.7, meaning from January to now, August, so the first 7 months, 3 million people have cut the cord. It's amazing.
You wouldn't do it, right?
No, I would not. Listen, I don't want to get into this. Anytime I go to stream something, I have an issue. So, like, I can never cut the cord. I went to watch something the other day. It didn't work. I'm like, what?
Is 3 million a lot, though? Or
in a 7-month span? I think so.
Okay. I don't know. I mean,
I think so.
I mean, I guess if you go every 7 months minus 3 million, I mean, you're still talking about over 70 million homes.
But, you know, the only thing people watch on regular TV is sports.
Yeah, well,
there's nothing getting the ratings of sports. Nothing.
I mean, the only thing we don't watch, I shouldn't say we, but I don't think my wife does either. But like, remember how it used to be? Oh, you know, whatever, Seinfeld, Friends. I know those are popular ones, but whatever fucking show you used to watch on such and such channel at 8:00, like that is something that I haven't thought about in years. It's sports, live TV, what's on the DVR.
Right.
That's it.
It's amazing too. Like, they're putting so much more, like they're moving so many things back. Everything that was on network, they would move it to cable. Now it's like, I noticed over the weekend, they did this thing. ESPN and NFL Network did this thing. I thought back to camp or back to school, whatever it is, where they have their reporters at like every training camp and they do a show. It was on ABC. I saw yesterday, they're going to put the U.S. Open tennis that's coming up in September in New York from Arthur Ashe on ABC. It's never been on ABC before. Like, they're moving so many things because sports are the only thing people are watching on regular television. It's crazy.
So what does it mean when ESPN is going to straight to consumer? Like, does that impact the cutting the cord?
I think that'll accelerate cord cutting for a lot of sports, because if you're let's say you're a sports fan and you're not into anything else.
Right.
You can get rid of cable and just have an ESPN app and watch everything there. You don't need CNN, Food Network, C-SPAN, TBS, whatever. You could just get your ESPN and that's it.
Yeah, I don't know what I would do. I don't think my wife could ever cut the cord, and I don't want to. I just like having that option. I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see, like, at what point, what year it happens where, like, we all die off and the younger generation has no interest in, like my nieces, they don't watch anything on TV. Anything. And my niece is even a little older, 18, 30. The kids who are 5, 6, 7, all they watch is YouTube. They don't watch anything on TV.
Right. Now that you say that, it makes sense. So, but if we went to cord cutting, you're still paying a lot of money.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm not saving any money. So why am I doing it?
Well, it depends. Like I've said a million times, it depends. If you only like 1 or 2 sports, then you can do it where you save money. If you like a ton of sports, it's hard to do it where you save money.
Right. Like, for me, I need well, how would you watch the NFL if you cut the cord? Like, how am I watching Jets and Giants on local? You
would subscribe to, like, either you can get just a local package on cable. Like, you can get, like, through Optimum or Verizon, whatever it is, like 2, 4, 5, 7, 30, like just ABC, your basic channels.
All right. So then
you can sign up for like YouTube TV, which is supposedly cheaper than cable. I don't know, and then get your channels through that.
I can't. The whole thing is convoluted. It needs to be cleaned up. For now, I'm just going to do what I keep doing. I do have it a la carte. I want cable, and then I'll pick and choose what other streaming services I want with it.
Yeah. I just feel like more times than not, I go to watch something on streaming, there's an issue. It's frozen. I can't find it. It's
Right. So, and I've upgraded my Wi-Fi 1 billion times. Give me the max thing. And it still does not work the way that cable does. So
right. SummerSlam is this Saturday. Will you watch any of it?
No.
I didn't think so. That's fine.
I will be away this week. I'm so far out. Like, give me a main event.
Roman Reigns against his cousin, Jey Uso.
Oh, they broke up the Usos?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't get into it.
So you're going away this weekend?
SummerSlam, when you think of SummerSlam, for me, I think of Jesse the Body Ventura, special guest referee, Hogan, Macho Man versus DiBiase and Andre the Giant. That
is a great one. That is a great one. That's a great one. That is a great one.
Might have been the first one if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember. I have a terrible memory with that stuff. Where are
88
you going?
or 89, I want to say.
Where are you going this weekend?
Saratoga.
Nice.
Yeah. Leaving Thursday. Cannot wait.
What, you blowing off your show Friday?
Yes. Wow. I know. Second weekend. See ya.
I mean, I got comments to make. I don't want to get in trouble.
No, BT is actually taking off Thursday, so I'll be solo Thursday. I'm taking off Friday, and then he's off, I think, the following week. Like, they basically told us, summer, you can do what you want, and then September, we're...
Another reason to hate the summer. Everyone's off doing what they want. There's no consistency. Yeah. Do you enjoy betting horse racing?
Great question.
Because I hate it, so...
The only answer is when I win, yes. Like, there's no thrill. It's exhilarating for that 90 seconds or 2 minutes watching your horse come around and then down to the wire. It's fun. It's a fun day. I used to do it a lot more regularly. Like, I'd go to the local OTB with the $10 that I had in my pocket from King Cullen, whatever I was making back in the day. I used to want to go in there and try to turn that $10 into 100 or whatever. But I don't do that anymore. But at Saratoga for a day, I'll bet like an animal. Yeah. Well,
thank God you clarified you don't go to OTB anymore. I mean, when you walk into the OTB back then, did you think like, this is a low point? This is a low point.
I liked it. It was like, I mean, look, yes, but I liked it because it reminded me, you remember when you played Zelda, right, for Nintendo?
I didn't play it. I was more of a Tetris guy. I had an addiction to Tetris.
So like Zelda, there were spots where you could go into one of these caves and you basically gamble with your coins. Pick this thing or pick that thing. And like you could all of a sudden have 1 billion coins. I always likened it. It's just you're walking up to a window and I could turn whatever little cash I have on me into a lot. It usually didn't work out that way. But
I was going to say, I mean,
you know what happened? I hit my first time in there. I hit a 35-1 shot. And so like $10 on a 35-1. I'll never forget the name of the horse, Apache Temper. I bet it. I won $135 or whatever it was for the or $300, whatever it was. And I was hooked ever since then.
You thought this is so easy.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was possible. It wasn't easy, but it was possible. So
see, I never ever got the rush from it. I could never get into it. I don't know. It felt too, listen, I know this is going to sound so dumb. Like all betting is random. Like you play roulette and your money is in the hands of this white ball spitting through the thing or whatever. But I don't know. I felt like I had some control because I'm betting the numbers or something. I don't know. But the horse racing to me felt like the ultimate. Betting horse racing to me feels like the ultimate no control. I don't know anything about the horses.
Right.
I know there's people who study. They have the books, this, that. I don't know anything about it. So I never, ever enjoy. I would hate it because when I'd go to back in, after college, when we would go to the casinos a lot with my friends, like my buddy Petey always right to the horse racing room. And I'm like, I don't want to go in there. It's so boring, But
right, it definitely is. And I don't handicap. I have no idea either. I just look at the numbers. I look at the odds. I'll look at the colors of the horse, whatever.
Right.
By the way, to finish this up, where I felt like an all-time low, when you start betting dogs, when you start betting the dog racing, that's where I was like, yeah.
Okay. Well, here's my question: what's the difference between a horse or a dog?
I mean, the dogs fly around that track. I know even less about it. It is like, it's over like that. It's just a total.
You don't know less. You know the same amount. You know the same amount about the dogs as the horses, which is 0.
Yeah, maybe that's true. Sometimes I feel like you could look a horse in the eye and get a good.
I'll give you a low point. I used to love going into like wherever to play quick draw. That's a low point.
I see. I don't really do that. I've never gotten sucked in.
That's a low point. Did I ever tell you this story? I'll wrap it on this. So me and my friend Petey, he's a degenerate.
Yeah.
And we were either in college or it was right after we graduated college. We were going out. It was a Friday or Saturday night. We were going out to a bar or whatever, somewhere. But we had time to kill before we were meeting people. So we go, let's go play quick draw for a little while. So we're just driving, looking for any establishment that got that flashing lights, the quick draw lights. We see a bar, quick draw lights. Okay, we go in there. So we're in there, and we didn't know. We started looking around after like filling out our tickets and playing our numbers. We look around, and it's all men in the place. Well, it turned out it was a gay bar, but we had no idea because we were just in there to play quick draw. Like, just ended up, so. That wasn't like, you'd be in like, I don't know, like a bodega miles away from where you live just to play quick draw. That's the low point.
Point. I never had that attachment to lottery tickets or quick draw. I mean, sometimes they could be fun, but quick draw, no.
Now, see, I don't play lotto. Never play lotto. To me, that's pissing your money away. You flush it down the toilet. But the quick draw, there's something about the numbers coming out there, and you could play two numbers.
It's the same thing. The scratch offs. People get nuts in the scratch offs.
No, the quick draw is different because you could play where you guess two numbers right. You could play it where you guess three numbers, four. Like you can pick how many numbers you want to guess right, and then if you could pick two numbers, and if those two numbers come in, you win like $5 or $10. You could play it on a small scale if you want.
I feel like if you're at a bar playing quick draw, you're right. That is a low point.
We'll go play one day. We'll go play. I know a couple of places that's
for fun.
Yeah,
you know what?
We'll do that.
You know any on Long Island that are still doing that? I mean,
I know. Yeah, I know some places. Yeah, we'll hit them up. All right, Sal. Enjoy Saratoga and your little time off. We'll see you soon here on the pod.
All right. See you next week. Thanks, Jimmy.
Take it easy. All right. All right, my thanks to Chris Mad Dog Russo and Sal Licata. Hope you enjoyed the episode. If you are not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button, and you can also listen to past episodes if you missed any of them. We've had WWE superstars Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins on the podcast recently. Bob Kravitz, longtime sports columnist with The Athletic, was laid off, wrote a scathing piece about The Athletic. He came on to discuss that. Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk was on recently. So check out all those interviews in the archives. And leave a review on Apple. We'll read it on an upcoming episode. And like I said, subscribe. All right. That wraps it up for this show. We'll see you soon. Stay safe and take care.